What do you make? What do you make of his change of direction when it comes to wanting to release the Epstein files?
Oh, I don't think that there's a change of direction. I mean, I think that they finally came up with whatever their scheme is going to be to make sure that he is quote unquote protected from, all of his dirtiest secrets being revealed. But the reality is that we know that he's a nasty individual. We know that he's a creep. I mean, we knew this. They knew this when they voted for him the very first time and the second time, and for those that voted for him the third time, because we had the tape, the Hollywood Access tape where he was talking about grabbing women by the pee. We had the lawsuits that have been filed against him where he and Jeffrey Epstein were named together as being rapists. So like, this is a matter of people just not wanting to see what's in front of them. It's amazing how people can come up with, all kinds of stories on people they don't like and then ignore the truth about people that they do like. And I don't understand why they like him so much, because he clearly don't like them. Because when 42 million people, and I know some of them had to be MAGA, when they needed to line up to get their EBT, and it wasn't nothing there, he didn't care. So, I think that people need to get back to prioritizing themselves and their families and their future instead of being dragged to hell by this dude who obviously has them in a cult.
In Scott Hall, and this is right after the Epstein. This is right after the Epstein vote on House Floor. Huge applause after that vote. And now what happens is it goes over to the Senate side. I'm actually walking to the Senate side in the U.S. Capitol. The U.S. Capitol is full of people today because the government is finally open after the longest shutdown in history. We'll see what happens next. But apparently Speaker Johnson said he talked to Majority Leader John Thune in the Senate about what they were going to do with the Epstein files. And what they're going to do is going to be quite interesting because they're already talking about changing the language in some way that effectively covers up more information. Let's just get right to it. We'll see if they change that.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known. We are joined by the one and only Lauren Burke this morning. Lauren, as always, just always insightful and in-your-face coverage of the Capitol that you do. Obviously, Jasmine Crockett speaks for a lot of people when she says what she says. And you mentioned, though, importantly, that the Senate will do some other things before this Epstein files gets all the way to Donald Trump's desk. Oh, you're on mute, Lauren. It's not coming through. Your mic is not coming through at all. Uh-oh. We got some technical problems. You want to try and go in and go out? Okay. Interesting to get Lauren's take because she is there. She's always in the Capitol and up close and personal. So here we are, Lauren. We can't get you, Lauren. She's trying to figure that out, but we'll get back to that in a moment. There's a lot to talk about this morning when it comes to Capitol Hill and when it comes to this whole situation that America finds itself in, including we're going to talk this morning about a federal court blocking Texas from using its newly redrawn congressional maps in next year's midterm election. That is a huge defeat for Donald Trump and for MAGA, and for it's a real blow to preventing people from voting, from preventing people from making the choices that they want to make. And it happened in Texas. That's what makes it really interesting. See the difference, folks, and Lauren will probably talk a little bit more about this too. The difference with California and Texas, California voters voted for their new maps. And now we got Lauren. We're going to get into the map situation in a little bit, but I want to go back to the Epstein files, Lauren.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. Got this highfalutin Rode mic and couldn't hear that. Wow. I guess. Well, okay, that's cool. So yeah. So are we talking about maps? Or are we talking about Epstein? What are we talking
Epstein. I want you to break down what the Senate might, or what you see them doing here.
Oh yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, the Senate passed it. The Senate did pass it right away. I filed that last night. I was surprised. They did it by unanimous consent. So it was like an hour after it left the House. Chuck Schumer hit the floor and said, I'm moving to pass this by unanimous consent. Nobody objected on the other side or his side or anybody. And then it passed. So now it's headed to Donald Trump in the White House. I was really surprised at that. I think everybody was a little surprised at that. So it just passed. They didn't take a roll call vote, but I suspect it would have been unanimous as it almost was in the House. Only Clay Higgins from Louisiana voted against it. So I don't know why that was, but at any rate, it was almost a 100% unanimous vote to open the file. So anyway, it is going to the president's desk. Question is, when is he signing that? What is going on now? I don't know the answer to that. I don't think anybody does.
So Bloomberg did a report the other day that said that for months they've been working to basically black out anything and any reference to people like Donald Trump. And that there's been some shenanigans going on with the files. What are we expecting, Lauren, if he does sign this? What are we expecting?
We're expecting.
What can we expect? Actually, I should say, what can we expect?
There's going to be a lot of names that come out that probably have not been realized before. When you have that much files coming out in voluminous documents, and Zeteo and ProPublica have already set up databases for what has already come out. So it's going to be very easily searchable. What these media organizations are going to do is load this thing into a searchable database. And then everybody in the media and everybody else is going to be able to search for names of people. And certain people are going to come up. And I think some of those people are not going to be known to anybody. And talking to Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky, who got this thing kicked off in the first place with the discharge petition and everything else, he said that he thought that Trump might not necessarily be the star of the show in those documents, but we already know from previous reporting that his name comes up a lot. And we found out from last week that Jeffrey Epstein was emailing about him, and his name is going to come up. In what way it comes up, nobody really knows, right? So that is the thing, but there's going to be a lot of people. There's a theory that the donors in West Palm Beach in New York will be involved in this because anybody in the orbit of Donald Trump would naturally come up. That makes sense to me. There are going to be people who are going to come up that nobody thought would come up, I suspect. That's you see Larry Summers ducking and dodging.
Right, exactly. I was going to mention that. And he's not the only one, obviously.
Right.
RNG says, Lauren, everything that is being released is unclassified. How about release the classified documents? He says those millionaires and billionaires paid good money to have their names hidden.
Well, I actually asked Thomas Massie about this. What difference did the files make that came out from House Oversight? What's the difference between the House Oversight files that came out that I guess are obviously unclassified and the ones that you're talking about when you say you want in this resolution, in this bill? He goes, there's a huge difference. Lack of redaction, lack of interference from the Justice Department redacting and trying to hide everything. He said there's some key differences. So I assume that I assume that what comes out is unclassified, because if it was classified, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation at all. You can see that there's some, conversations about sudden legal investigations being announced by the White House on the Democrats so that you can hide files under the cover of, there's an investigation. So they're going to play that game again. I don't know what they're going to do. Donald Trump does what Donald Trump wants to do. And from one hour to the next, he changes what he's doing, and he's a pathological liar. So who knows what he's going to actually do? Is he going to sign the thing and that's it? And frankly, if you're so innocent and there's no issue, I'm not sure why you're not signing it. That's the thing
Right.
I've always said. I'm a big believer in documents, emails, and evidence. And this is the type of valuable information on a case that you cannot beat. But I don't know whether he's going to sign it or not.
A couple of things, a couple more things from the chat. Dr. Marilyn says, "Why don't the survivors create their own list? Forget Congress."
It's funny. The survivors were on Capitol Hill all day yesterday, and they that came up, I think, at their first press conference. Probably it didn't come up yesterday specifically. They didn't really take that many questions. There's a lot of people talking, which you have the survivors, the members of Congress. You had Marjorie Taylor Greene saying some really newsworthy stuff. And so the question of why don't they do their own list and put it out there has come up before. And I thought I heard one of the attorneys on the first presser some weeks ago say some of us have been trying to do that and some of us haven't over the years. And to the extent that anybody pays attention, who knows? But wouldn't it be more interesting to have emails from Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell mentioning some of these people? All right. And that would be even more, not to say that the survivors' information is not valuable, but that really would be almost, because, you got that stuff in that is corroborated communication from the time between the two people who have been adjudicated.
Yeah, and Justine Sports Medicine writes that shenanigans is correct. She's asking you, Lauren, what congressman or congresswoman would know if the files were tampered with, and how would the public get that information?
Oh, well, I'm sure that Thomas Massey will keep us updated. Thomas Massey is really good at doing media, talking to media endlessly, taking thousands of questions in a row in one sitting. He will let you know if something is redacted or something's wrong with this thing. And he puts it in a language where he's extremely candid about what he thinks this is, protecting predatory behavior, protecting criminals, protecting rapists. He says it. And I'm telling you, if there's some sort of redaction or some sort of problem with the files, he is going to tell everybody. No doubt.
Now, what's the deal? We got to ask this too with the representative from the Virgin Islands, Stacey Plaskett.
What's the deal with that is really, to me, nothing. Of course, the island that in question, the Virgin Islands, her location is a key moment in this, but just because she texted somebody during a hearing, what I think that the Republicans did was a game of distraction. We'll censure you because we want to be able to say a Democrat did something naughty, which she didn't. So you texted somebody during a hearing. So what? We got people stealing from the Treasury, from the federal Treasury, tens of thousands of dollars. We have idiots from Elon Musk's camp stealing our information out of the Social Security Department. And you want to talk to me about Stacey Plaskett text Jeffrey Epstein during a hearing? It just doesn't match up. So they're trying to create a diversion, which is what they did. The Black Caucus defended her. I'm actually going to file about that this morning. And to me, it was a big nothing.
Okay, we have Stacey Plaskett's statement.
In that hearing. And I got a text from Jeffrey Epstein, who at the time was my constituent, who was not public knowledge at that time that he was under federal investigation, and who was sharing information with me. Now, I heard recently from someone that I was seeking advice from him. Let me tell you something. I don't need to get advice on how to question anybody from any individual. I have been a lawyer for 30 years. I have been a narcotics prosecutor in New York City. I have had the honor of being a political appointee at the Justice Department after September 11th as a Republican appointee in the Bush administration. I know how to question individuals. I know how to seek information. I have sought information from confidential informants, from murderers, from other individuals, because I want the truth, not because I need them to tell me what to say. And if you look at the transcript, you will see that I questioned Michael Cohen for 5 minutes. The Washington Post only shows you 30 seconds. You want to talk about texting felons? How often do you text President Donald J. Trump? That's the individual we should be concerned about. And
You know, the thing about it, Lauren, people could say what they want about, and naturally we know Donald Trump says a lot about black women, these black women lawmakers, but whether it's Stacey Plaskett, certainly Jasmine Crockett, they always come prepared and with receipts.
Yeah, Plaskett's really good in committee. I actually think this is happening because she's a bit too good in committee. It's just like Al Franken was, where the Republicans just become annoyed at somebody and then they figure out a way to bring something up to smear somebody. But really, I think texting somebody during a hearing, no matter how friendly it may have been or whatever, I really don't know why that matters compared to the levels of corruption that we're seeing throughout the government as carried out by the Trump administration.
In your face too. I mean, they
Yeah.
no longer hide this. You see the hypocrisy. They had the leader from, was it Saudi Arabia or wherever he was from,
Right.
Syria, wherever he's from, back to back. It was Syria, Saudi Arabia, but the last guy
Mhm.
was alleged to have hacked up the journalists, and Trump says basically, hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, the reporting is that this is the Saudi king. He apparently, the reporting indicates that he gave the order to murder Adnan Khashoggi. And of course, a reporter asked about that, and then Trump goes into defense mode. Remember, Adnan Khashoggi is an American. He's an American, so you would think
Correct.
an American president would defend Adnan Khashoggi and not defend the Saudi guy. But it's all about money. It's all about some deal that they're making. Trump has absolutely no moral compass whatsoever and doesn't care. Unlike any president we've ever seen in American history, even some of the worst presidents that we've had, we haven't seen some of the things that he's done. And I think he's eclipsed Woodrow Wilson and Andrew Jackson and so many others in the racism category on so many levels. We have a white supremacist effectively running the country in Stephen Miller. There is no end to them. There's no bottom. And that's why the Democrats are so focused on the 2026 elections.
Yeah, and a week before that, he had another Middle Eastern leader who was on the U.S.'s most wanted list. Who, I mean, they had a bounty on this guy, and he welcomed him with pomp and circumstance.
Yeah, well, Trump doesn't care about anything other than money and giving money to his friends. And let's see what the Democrats do to counter that, because the Democratic Party has been particularly bad at countering some of the actions when it comes to funding media that tells the truth from their perspective, and not just from their perspective, because the truth is not really a subjective state. It is a factor. It's not a fact. But the Democratic Party needs to understand the fight that it's in. The opposition to Donald Trump needs to understand the fight that it's in. When they see them do these outrageous things, it's not enough to just be talking about it and then that's it. Talking about it is not what is called for. There has to be action behind to meet and counteract the actions that he has taken, like dismantling the Department of Education, for example. And then we don't know where the Civil Rights Division within the Department of Education is going to end up. But he's dismantled all the civil rights related initiatives that the Department of Education was carrying out. They're doing that for a reason. And so people need to wake up.
Yeah, and I mentioned these two Middle Eastern leaders, and yet these Trump and MAGA folks blow a gasket because Zoran Mandami wins the election in New York to be mayor, and all of a sudden he's a terrorist because give me a break.
Yeah, I've been asking these Democrats, particularly Hakeem Jeffries, like, what is it about Zoran Mandami that you don't like? He's been talking about affordability this entire time. And it amazes me how, when Zoran Mandami mentions stuff like free buses, everybody flips out, free bus fares. But really the issue that he had centered on was affordability, which the Democratic Party claims they care about. And from time to time, the Republican Party claims they care about. So tell me what, other than the label that he has on his political affiliation, if we look at the policies he's talking about in one of the most expensive cities in the country, one that I happen to pay taxes on a house for, which thank goodness I'm getting assistance from other family members on that one. And I know what it is to live in New York, and everybody who understands just visiting New York knows that. And that is what he is talking about. And who comes out crazy? The billionaire class, the millionaire class. That tells us all we need to know about what's going on here. They feel like we control the political system. How dare anybody talk about us getting one dime less than what we're getting? And we don't want anybody having any of that discussion.
Yeah, and you mentioned the white supremacists and racism, and if anybody can't see it, this petulant child has been after Obamacare since he became president, since he was running for president the first time, and it's coming out this morning that they are indeed going to remove the subsidies, which in effect takes away affordability for at least 30 million Americans. And in their minds, and it's like with the SNAP, the
Mhm.
racist mind says, "Oh, that's black people, that's brown people," when it's majority, not just majority white folks, but it's MAGA folks who you're hurting too. So when you have that much hate, you can't see, you're blinded to these facts, and these subsidies. I just read in the Washington Informer, for instance, this couple, just a couple, they make 80,000 a year. They were paying $328. Now they're going to pay $2,400 a month for health care. This is Donald Trump doing Donald Trump things, and no replacement for it.
Of course not. They've never had to replace. They don't want a replacement for it. This is about health insurance companies making even more money, is what this is about. And those health insurance companies are funding these politicians, which is why you don't hear a whole lot of pushback. Not even really. You're hearing it from the Democrats, but I go back to the single payer argument of 2010 when Bernie Sanders tried to institute single payer, which is exactly what we should have been doing, and he effectively was stopped by the Democrats, and Joe Lieberman and Barack Obama, President Obama threw his hands up and said, "Oh, there's no way we can get that," which is always what the Democrats do. See, the Republicans never do that. No matter how outrageous the thing, they never say, "Oh, we can't do that." No, they do it, right? They just do it. And so, and they push for it. They push for what they want. So the healthcare debate is really about big companies getting richer because our political system is now owned by corporations, and that of course happened with Citizens United, and that made everything work. It would not that it wasn't bad in the first place, but now it is out in the open that these corporations, if I give you enough money, I can control everything that you're doing, and it's made life worse for the average American.
Yeah, we were in France early last year, and had a great conversation with an Uber driver who was saying how his doctor, his doctor is married to a doctor, and he was talking about the healthcare and how easy it is to go in and get your checkup or whatever you need done, and then right away get your prescription costing little to nothing. And these two doctors, longtime doctors, they live in a little flat together, and they have second jobs because they're not raping the system like they do here in America.
Yeah, it's amazing how things work in other countries, particularly nations that are industrialized nations like ours. They don't have anything like this. I've had a few friends that have gotten hurt in other countries, France, England. Somebody falls off a bike, whatever, and they treat you for free. You're a visitor. It's unheard of. We don't unheard of here. But this is a for-profit system. This is a dog-eat-dog country. This is a country of survival of the fittest. With all the talking and Charlie Kirk holding a Bible on stage and quoting the Bible and all this nonsense, right? And these guys love to wear Bible quotes on their sleeve. But when it comes to the issue of poverty, and I just watched over the weekend several organizations, one in Portsmouth, Virginia, and the other in Chesapeake, Virginia. The one in Chesapeake, Virginia, is going to feed a bunch of people on Thanksgiving. The other was having a giveaway, a turkey giveaway by a member of the Portsmouth City Council, Vernon Tillage, who does it now every year. And incidentally, there's a gigantic turkey giveaway, as there are in many states, from a councilman in Suffolk, Virginia, Leotis Williams. That's happening, I think, this weekend on the 22nd. At any rate, the fact that that's happening, and the fact that that's had to happen in communities, when you see these people come in, don't have a lot of money, in a country that is the wealthiest in the world, and then have to read in the same moment that Donald Trump has decided to give $40 $40 billion to Argentina for no good reason. These are the things that tick people off, right? But
Yeah.
these people voted, a lot of these people who are suffering under Donald Trump, they voted for him, particularly in the Hispanic community. They voted for him. So
Yeah.
this is what happens when you are not paying attention. Although I don't know why you would have to pay that much attention to figure out that Donald Trump does not care about anything other than himself and loading up his friends' bank accounts with the money from the Department of Treasury.
And Department of Justice, they're going to pay Michael Flynn $50 million.
Yeah, of course. They're just giving away money to people. Now, what the Democrats should be doing is coming up with a plan 2029 to either prosecute some of these people or get the money back or do something, right? But I can assure you, just like what we saw after the waterboarding incidents of the Bush administration, the Obama administration came in and everybody just wanted to forget everything and we'll just forgive everybody. That is one of the biggest mistakes. Same thing that happened after the Civil War. We're not going to take the, symbols of the Civil War down. We're not going to take, then we let them put monuments up later at the turn of the century. You cannot do that. There's got to be a pushback. But one of the problems that the Democrats have is white Democrats, quite frankly. White Democrats who can't figure out what they believe in and don't really want to push back too hard on racism because they don't want to but they don't want to piss their friends off. So that's a conundrum that keeps coming up again as well.
Yes. Laura, let's move to the maps. Texas, the federal court, they blocked Texas redrawn congressional maps. They said that the map is unconstitutional. It's an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. It's interesting. Obviously, they're going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court. They are. Looking for the favorability of the Supreme Court. We know that is in Trump's back pocket. At least 6 of those justices are. But what's interesting, I find, is that California decided to let the voters do this, and the voters decided on their redoing the maps. Texas did not. It could turn out, right now it's turning out anyway, at least today, that the Democrats win this one big time.
Yeah, I mean, the maps, it depends on what the Supreme Court does. And the Supreme Court, of course, has a habit of, they have a habit of doing whatever Donald Trump wants. This one is so blatantly effed up, though, that even John Roberts might have trouble trying to articulate what these Republicans did in Texas. Big win for Al Green, who was the plaintiff in the case that won. It was a Trump juror. Interestingly enough, a Trump appointee brings up race in the decision in a big way. That's in the story I submitted last night. I'll probably post this morning. And so that whole scenario was not what these Republicans thought. I mean, see, even some of these Republican judges can see what's going on. I want to answer 2 things in the chat. One is from the Big Cheese with regard to who built New York. The New York was actually built by the Dutch, the Indians, Black folks,
yes,
and
exactly.
several minority communities, the Irish, the Italians. I mean, New York was built by really an immigrant community, with the exception of the Indians, of course. And so New York was built by a lot of people. I don't know why people want to get in their feelings about one group doing it. I mean, it's really a group of people that come to New York and build New York. And to Dr. Sturdivant, with regard to taxes, I have a niece that lives in Texas, and taxes are forever. Property taxes in New York have become ridiculous. It's just become insane. It's just become ridiculous. And I'm just saying that, I don't know how people have to come in from Connecticut and New Jersey now and Long Island to work in New York on salaries that are over 90,000 a year. So it's crazy. But to get back to the maps, I did talk to the Texans, Mark Veazey. I talked to Al Green yesterday. He's going to be quoted in the piece that I submitted. We're going to see what happens next. They fully expect that this is going to go to the Supreme Court right away, because the deadline for filing in Texas for Congress is December 8th or December 9th. It's literally 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. 2 weeks.
So this has got to happen quickly. The court, Mark Veazey, the congressman, one of the congressmen who is impacted by this. There are 3: Jasmine Crockett, Al Green, and Mark Veazey. And then there's Texas 18 sitting out there, the famous Texas 18 seat that was occupied by Barbara Jordan and Sheila Jackson Lee. And what was the dude's name that died in the plane crash? That's crazy that I can't remember it right now, but somebody will put it in the chat. Mickey Leland. That seat, that seat is sitting out there as the other thing that's going to be impacted. One of the open questions is whether or not the Hispanic community is going to vote Republican, because now we're seeing in the polls, because Texas Republicans thought they were slick. They thought, oh, Hispanics will vote Republican, so we'll pack that with Hispanics. Now we're seeing in the polls, the Hispanics are waking up to the fact that Donald Trump hates them and is racist. So now, oh, wait a minute, they might not vote for us. So there's all that going on. But whatever the Supreme Court does, it is expected to happen very quickly.
Yeah. Well, like as you articulated, it has to happen quickly, right? Because that deadline it's a hard deadline, right? This is not something they can push back.
They can't. Well, they can push it back, but what would happen is those districts, the old districts, would be the districts for 2026. The other thing that everybody's got to pay attention to, this is a separate piece onto itself. Al Green is running. He is now filed to run in the new district that was created by the Republicans in Texas. He would have to go back to his old district for this to make any sense. So he has got to change his registration. You cannot run in two districts. So Al Green would have to figure out pretty quickly which district he's running in and what district it is. So the Supreme Court has to be making a decision pretty soon.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I'm sure you're going to keep us apprised of all of that.
Yeah.
Again, Trump raised eyebrows during several tense exchanges with members of the press over the weekend, and the viral post that circulated yesterday and taken during a November 14th press gag on Air Force One as he flew from D.C. to Mar-a-Lago. He was, of course, asked about the Epstein files when an off-camera female reporter, later identified as a Bloomberg News reporter, began to ask if there was anything incriminating in the Epstein emails, and Trump pointed a finger in her face and said, "Quiet, quiet, piggy."
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, I think that I see a lot of people commentating that, oh my goodness, they should have stopped everything and stopped, the entire conversation. Remember, you're on an airplane with the president of the United States. This is not like you're in the briefing room where you can just say something, walk out the door. You're in basically an enclosed structure that you can't just walk out of. And these people are dangerous and stupid. So I'm not suggesting anybody get thrown off the plane physically or any other way, but I'm just saying that this is a little bit different than what you would see in a briefing room setting or an East Room setting during a press conference, where you do have a group of reporters that's in there. Not to say the traveling press. The traveling press pool is actually the more senior members of the White House correspondence group, but it's a little bit trickier than, what you typically have at the White House. What he said was absolutely stupid, but I would just suggest to everybody, it's harder than you think it is saying something back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not going to stop talking because you said something back to him. This is going to be a tit for tat. This is going to be an ongoing thing. He's not a guy that blanches and goes away. That is going to go viral. That's going to go crazy. You're going to get death threats. This has happened a million times. We had a guy that threatened to blow up several members of the media and members of Congress that the FBI caught up to a few years ago. And that is a serious thing. So I know, it may seem like, oh, we just would say stuff back and we would, say something back to the president. Yeah. Okay. If these people were normal, you might. And they're not normal. And you got to think about that. They're renditioning people to El Salvador. So they won't leave this guy, Kilmar Garcia, alone. They're talking about shipping him to the continent of Africa. So I know that it might seem like it's easy in theory. What he said was crazy. He said other crazy things to other journalists, as we know. But the way you deal with it in real time is different than the way you might deal with it in theory. That's all I would say on that.
Yeah. Nancy Wall says Mary Bruce was another reporter who got smart with him. And Aquarius says that 47 saying piggy taking words from Charles Manson. And there, I guess, is the photo. I don't know if she had the video there, but it was the photo and perhaps the video.
Quite a photo there. That's the pool photographer in there, probably Doug Mills or somebody took that. Yeah. And I just, the guy is a bully. He thinks he can say and do anything he wants. And he is in a position of power where he can do a lot of things that are ridiculous. So you got to keep that all in mind when things are going on.
Yeah. As Greer points out, that finger in her face, it's just so disrespectful, but we know that, and you've articulated earlier, there's no bottom to this administration.
Yep. And
I think I'd lose it too.
Yeah. I mean, you know what this is. He's a bully. He's a jerk. I mean, that's just who he is to the core.
Yeah. Switching gears totally, Lauren. Yesterday we discussed a viral video of a horrible Karen nurse ignoring the pain and impending birth experienced by a Black mother. And today, the Black maternal health care has again been shown to be an absolute crisis in this country. And now a viral video of a Black woman who allegedly gave birth in her car less than 10 minutes after being discharged from an Indiana hospital is shining a light on how the healthcare system continues to mistreat Black women. The woman's name is Mercedes Wells. She was at Franciscan Hospital in Crown Point, Indiana, in the early morning hours of November 15th, believing she was in active labor. Well, at the time, a nurse told her she was 3 centimeters dilated. Although Wells says she was experiencing painful contractions that were becoming increasingly frequent, she was discharged from the hospital after being monitored for more than 5 hours. The nurse said she can feel the baby's head, but there's no change. And she said she was 3 centimeters. Well, 10 minutes after she walked out of the hospital, she gave birth in her van.
Yeah, well,
And they-
the lawsuits should be flying. That's all I can say. Ben Crump or Morgan and Morgan or whoever's out there, the lawsuit should be absolutely flying on medical malpractice. They are going to have to obviously prove damages, but you're going to have some sort of pain and suffering. And, you know, the idea that these people are on video and everything is on video
Yeah.
now, because, of course, we have cell phones that do really good video. But the idea that that would happen any place, anytime, as if we're in some sort of third world nation. But our stats are as if for maternal health, our stats are in a third world nation. So people should be sued. They should get
Yeah.
sued. I mean, you know, this is the way you do it. You take money out of people's bank accounts. They'll start paying attention.
Yeah, exactly. Hit 'em, as they always say, hit them in the wallet, hit them where it hurts. But this, you know, the maternal health situation for Black women have been just absolutely horrendous in this country. And thank goodness about, you know, for doulas. We, you know, Niall mentioned that yesterday. I always say, you know, my daughter's a doula. I mean, the job that they do is just incredible in helping as much as they can these pregnant women, no matter what their race is, but especially Black women.
Yeah. There is definitely part of that is probably lack of healthcare coverage, by the way, because we have over indexing in our community of poverty, and that usually indicates that you would not have healthcare coverage. And so that is part of what you're probably seeing with regard to some of that infant mortality data that's coming in. But none of that should exist in a civilized country, in an industrialized nation that's one of the wealthiest in the world. Big Cheese, I'm from New York. I know who built New York. I'm aware of slavery. And to QAnon, you're a liar. You're an absolute liar. And that's just what it is.
That's what it is. Justine Sports Medicine says, like Sherman Hemsley said, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Has to be a solution to protect Black pregnant women in healthcare.
Yeah, the solution is lawsuits. The
Yeah.
solution is class actions, and the solution is suing these hospital systems.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, to switch gears, America's largest bank, let me rephrase that. America's largest Black-owned bank says it's going all in on AI. One United Bank, with services more than 100,000 customers nationwide, has launched Wise One, an AI-powered money management tool that helps users make financial decisions in hopes of fostering generational wealth. The app is at users' fingertips through a mobile app or online, and gives customer custom insights into their spending, saving, and progress. And Terry Williams, the president and COO of the bank, says we use GPS and it takes us where we want to go. That's what this is like. He says, you want to save more? Here's some tools, here's some direction. So the idea of it is to use AI for good, to help our community build wealth and become more financially literate. He says we are very good with money. We just have a lot of hurdles in our history that have stopped us from being as wealthy. And we've had times in our history where we have built wealth and it's been burned down, whether that's Black Wall Street or other situations. So AI and banks, Lauren, and Black banks now. So what do we make of all this?
Depends. I mean, to me, I see that I saw the name Robert Smith there on the screen. So, anything that has anything to do with financial literacy is typically a good thing. But I will say, I don't know about anybody else around here, but I'm getting a little tired of AI trying to replace human beings
So am I.
when it comes to customer service. But
Mhm.
numbers don't lie. One application it probably would be good at is mathematical computation and figuring out what stock trade would be better or worse. AI will probably be really good at that because those are finite things. But when we start
Right,
getting into subjective conversation about certain things that happen in customer service settings where these companies are really trying to do everything, literally everything, with some AI bot. I mean, Amazon and I'm trying to think of the other company. I mean, like you cannot get a human being in some of these companies when
right.
you make a phone call. That's starting to get tiresome real fast.
Yeah, without question. And pay no attention to the bots is what Greer is saying here. So so anyway, yeah, I'm with you on the AI thing, and I've seen what kills me the most is I have seen so many, and I'm talking about mainstream news organizations, newspapers. That they didn't write the story. AI, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
start to
Right.
learn.
Right.
Yeah, I'm starting to learn the language because everybody's saying the same thing. They got the same language, the same M dash this and M dash that. And I mean, nothing wrong with M dashes as a whole, but you're seeing so much of the same thing in everybody's writing. How do they determine Lauren a Pulitzer Prize nowadays?
That's going to be difficult. But one of the things about Pulitzers, they tend to be based on investigative reporting, which tends not to be the type of thing that you can just run through ChatGTP and get an answer real fast. You really do have to make a lot of phone calls and track down people and all that. And I just don't think that AI is going to replace any of that human effort. And one of the shields that I've got for Black Virginia News with regard to AI is to be reporting on such a micro local level that it's all but impossible for AI to be able to report on that level, right?
Right.
You just can't be every place. I don't care what anyone says about the technology, it can't be everywhere. And even if it was everywhere, then it has to choose what's important and what isn't. That's when the human element comes in. The human element is us choosing what is going to be amplified in the media. So as a foundational Black American with foundational Black relatives down in Virginia, I understand that there's a lot of stories that get uncovered and are erased by over the years, over the centuries, by racism. So, that alone has its own power, just choosing what you're paying attention to and what you're not.
Yeah, there you go. RNG says Robert Smith graduated from Tugaloo College and he is the richest Black man in the U.S. Also, he will tell you he experiences racism. So,
Oh, I bet it does. I thought that tax investigation that happened out of nowhere a few years ago, I think was a great example of that.
Oh, yeah.
How the hell is Elon Musk sitting in here and there's nobody investigating anything he does, right? And then Robert Smith, all of a sudden, there's this investigation from the government. You got to be kidding me. I mean, you got to be kidding me. But that was interesting.
Yeah, there was speaking of Elon, there was a stat that came out. Of course, they have decided to give him make him a trillionaire. But he talks about something about with schools, and they said every school teacher and professors in the country combined, plus something else, don't even come close to the wealth of Elon Musk. Their salaries.
Yeah.
It's like they said every single school teacher in the country and every single professor and administrators combined.
Yeah, I think we spend too much time in our country looking at the Forbes list instead of figuring out how to get on it. Like we're very voyeuristic when it comes to other people's money. In the end, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money Elon Musk has in his bank account. What matters is how much money you have in your bank account and how to get more in there. So we're very funny about wanting to know things that have absolutely nothing to do with our own lives and no impact whatsoever. So there's that. You want to talk about Stephen A. Smith, by the way?
Go ahead,
Okay. I
please.
mean, there was another comment with regard to our First Lady, Michelle Obama. Did you see that?
I did not. Please fill us in.
The other day she had made the comment that the country is not ready for a female president, and Stephen A. just had to comment, which I don't really care about the details of. What's more interesting to me, and we talked about this on a show that we did on my, platform.
Yep.
It was like the Stephen A. Smith is making money deliberately off of criticizing other Black people. He's another Jason Whitlock, effectively
Yep.
a race traitor. He knows exactly what he's doing. He is in there as somebody to be the replacement voice of racism in a black suit. That's what this is. He knows it gets him attention. He knows it gets him clicks. And it is very deliberate strategy. And he's picking out, just like Charlie Kirk did with Ketanji Brown Jackson, Michelle Obama, and Joy Reid and everybody else. They pick out the best and the brightest in our community to try to vilify, to make money. That is what Stephen A. Smith is doing. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a very interesting experiment when we get, there's always a rise and fall in every story. There will be a rise and fall of Donald Trump. And when the fall starts, it's going to be interesting to see how he positions himself. The other one that is aligned himself in that way is Van Jones. These are very deliberate, very deliberate efforts to placate some white producer in the back that wants you to sound like they would sound if they were talking, but you're going to do it for them. And so anyway, watch what happens with Stephen A. Smith. It's going to be very interesting because he wants to get involved in politics, and that's going to be very, very, very entertaining for us all.
Yeah, and the hypocrisy will show eventually. It will absolutely show. So.
Yep, absolutely.
Wow. Well, and speaking of Charlie Kirk, I wanted to mention this to you too, Lauren. Now we know all of the celebrations, if you will, or memorials, I probably should say, of his death and how they treated him like he was like a president. He wasn't even a politician. He was a podcaster, right? But his wife is she's everywhere now. She's always in the Oval Office, it seems. There was someone commenting about that, and of course the situation with her and JD Vance. What's the deal, Lauren? Do you have any insight on what's going on with Charlie Kirk's wife?
I have no idea. I do see that Candace Owens and I think it's Tucker Carlson or somebody. There was a second person, might not be Tucker Carlson. It was questioning her positioning after Charlie Kirk's murder. People grieve differently. It can be very strange. I do think it is odd, frankly, that some of the behavior that we've seen is not typically what you would find when somebody has been brutally and viciously murdered in front of you. She was there in Utah, by the way. And this is, of course, all on video. So even if she wasn't there, she would have seen some part of what happened to her husband. So I am a little surprised at the public facing actions that she's taken and the sort of swooping into his organization. I'm not to say it wasn't like she wasn't somewhat a part of it when it was happening, but she certainly wasn't as public facing as he was. And given the circumstances of his death not being completely figured out yet, and some mystery man that we don't even know whether or not that's the guy, kind of reminiscent of the shooting in Pennsylvania, the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, that it has the same weird mystery around it. And it's always interesting when it's a white shooter, young white male, all of a sudden everything becomes mysterious. But I do think that needs to all be investigated. It likely won't be by this administration because they have a dog in the hunt to not uncover certain facts that might be uncomfortable for the MAGA right. But I do think it's just strange watching Charlie Kirk's wife in a general sense. Your husband is murdered in front of everybody, in front of thousands of people, and it goes viral, the video. And you are out here talking about, Turning Point USA, like that's the most important thing in the world. And one thing death does is it reorders your values. And, apparently that didn't happen with her because I don't see anything that's indicating to me that she's reordered what's important in life. I don't know what the heck is going on, but there's something strange there. And it's bound to get uncovered because you do have so many sleuths out here that are very interested in that story.
Yeah, without question. All right, before we get out of here, a Black history fact for everyone on this date. In 1867, South Carolina citizens with a majority of Black voters endorsing the Constitutional Convention began the process of creating a new, more democratic state constitution. This new constitution was drafted and approved by voters in April of 1868, and it included provisions for universal male suffrage, integrated public schools, and equal political rights regardless of race. The effort was a direct result of the Reconstruction Acts, which had granted Black men the right to vote in former Confederate states. Black voters strongly supported the Constitutional Convention, with 66,418 Black voters and 2,350 white voters casting ballots in favor of it. The new Constitution established a more democratic system by abolishing property and race restrictions on voting. So interesting stuff way back in 1867 on this date. That's
Radical.
our Black history fact. Yeah, how about that?
I love how the word radical has made its way through the 1800s and right into present day, because every Black candidate is called radical by the Republican Party.
The radical left.
Everything's radical. Everything's radical. It's a great photo there, great image there.
Yeah, absolutely. Greer has a knack for finding these things. I don't know how she does it, but and I don't know how you do it, Lauren. The coverage on Capitol Hill from you, folks, check out Black Virginia News every day. Lauren is awesome. She's simply awesome.
Yeah, there should be 3 stories up at some point at Black Press USA on, and actually those stories, probably one of them will end up on Black Virginia News as well. There's a lot going on Capitol Hill. The members are going to get out of town for Thanksgiving at the end of this week, but this is their first full week of work in like 5 weeks, 5 weeks. So everybody's ready to talk, and it's interesting talking to them, and probably see a few today. We'll see how the day goes.
Well, interesting talking to you today. And thanks so much, Lauren, for getting up here with us this morning.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it. And thank you all, as always, for watching Let It Be Known. We'll see you tomorrow.